Fear. God.
Immediately bumps cup. Immediately spills small amount of water. Fear.
Immediate spill.
Fear. Fear. Fear.
Speaking of that real quick, I cannot...
Avatar rant?
Yes. First things first. They removed Avatar on my birthday.
From Disney Plus, because they're re-putting it in theaters in October to prepare audiences to catch them up on the lore. Codes make more money before Avatar 2
There's an
comes out.
incredible amount of lore in Avatar. There actually is. They do need to catch people up on it.
There actually is. I just don't know how much of it was relevant in that first movie, but I bet a lot of it will be relevant. If they're gonna make 4 more movies, they're gonna have to get a lot more. Gonna have to dig a lot more into that lore. We will be talking about future Avatar movies when they
probably on the Fear podcast.
Yes, likely.
Avatar 2 on the Fear podcast.
Avatar 2 on the Fear podcast. So you can see we've got a new Fear wall back here. We've got a funny L cross to take off the wall.
Take the L.
And give movies the L when they suck.
L.
Let me put it back.
Yeah, good enough. Just put it there for now. We can put it up later.
We can put it up later. So today we're talking about several movies. None of them, well, no, that's a lie. One of them was pretty good. But
one of them was good for like half of it.
Boy, I'm trying to. Okay, we watched Eragon. We watched
Black Death, and then Beowulf.
Right, Beowulf. Thank you. Now it's all coming back to me now.
Speaking of, since I have keep them entertained, since I have them all on the DVD, I can show you.
But before we talk about these DVDs, we have exciting news. We have exciting news for our Scooby-Doo update fans, who've gotten very used to us coming in and saying, sorry, no Scooby-Doo updates this time. Boom, shika, shika, boom, shika, shika, shika. All Mystery Inc., all mystery solvers and seagulls of, I can't remember it, it's been too long. But
all
this is
you
the
mystery
intro.
heads out there.
All you mystery heads out there, we finally finished Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc.
Let's go.
And holy shit, the lore gets wild.
Yeah, we watched the last 5 episodes.
Yes, and the last 2 I never saw when the show originally came
out. So it was new
for
some
you reason.
Well.
I think at the age of like 14, or however old I was like just old enough to not be paying attention like I was watching them as they came out, and then at some point I stopped watching them as they came out, and then I think I watched the third to last episode where the whole town's underground, being forced to like dig and mine, being forced to mine. And I just kind of lost track of the plot and stopped watching. But I think the back half of season 2 is much better on binge.
Yeah.
Where you can like really appreciate the plot that they built up to. It's absolutely.
Before we talk probably mostly about like the last 2 episodes, I want to briefly mention the 4th episode where
Are we talking about the Twin Peaks Red Room?
No, the one where Velma's mom has an affair with a fucking.
Okay, she didn't have the affair. The guy she was with had the affair.
Okay, yeah. No, she's married too.
Yeah, but okay, they it's not confirmed whether they actually did anything in the present episode. Basically, so the first
there's this Latino Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Who years ago
had a fling with Velma's mom, and
despite being married at the time and now,
they get him to help them get this thing called the Heart of the Jaguar, which they established in the episode before this, which is the running around the Twin Peaks Red Room.
They literally call it the sitting room, which is what I think they also call the Red Room.
That entire
Twin Peaks.
Now this Red Room was established. We mentioned it last time we talked about this show. I assume last time I checked. Last time we talked about the show was in like March.
Jesus Christ!
I don't know why we didn't just get together and finish it at some point. But
well, it's because you had like school and stuff.
I was busy from like March to April. We barely got in that one with the alien movie movies.
Yeah.
And then
that was only because we had like watched that, like one of them with our friends.
Yeah.
When we were high.
But yeah, sorry for the long wait on the Scooby-Doo update. But
now it's over.
But we finally finished the series.
Coming next week, the Fear podcast watches No, we're not. The reason we were watching the show is because for Kirk fans who have been waiting even longer for my Scooby-Doo-a-thon update, I can finally move on now that I'm done with the show to the other shows that I've watched.
You've been watching every Scooby-Doo series for a while now.
And every movie.
And then
Basically, my goal is to watch every piece of Scooby-Doo media.
And as the person whose goal it is to watch every piece of Scooby-Doo media, where does this Mystery Inc. show stand amongst them all? Now that we've
definitely upper echelon. I would put it probably in the top 5 pieces of Scooby-Doo media. There is that includes that's Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, What's New Scooby-Doo, this show, and then depending on who you ask, I would probably put like Pup Named Scooby-Doo in there as well, and then Moon Monster
Madness.
True insanity.
Yeah. It's crazy how when I first watched Mystery Inc., we're kind of...
Also, Ghoul School was pretty good.
It's crazy how when I first watched Mystery Inc., all of this lore towards the end of the show was really too much for me to keep up with. And we were joking about it in the last 2 episodes, how like if somebody tuned in just randomly at this point, they'd be like, what is going on?
If someone had no idea that the Mystery Inc. show existed, but just was going into it based on their previous knowledge of Scooby-Doo,
they'd be like, huh?
Oh, there's a new Scooby-Doo show. Okay, there's a talking parrot.
Okay.
Why is Fred here, and why is Daphne old? And why do they not sound like Daphne and Fred? Why is Shaggy fat?
The reason that all this insane lore works, though, is that
It's because it uses the ability of being a Scooby-Doo show to not take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's not just that one apocalypse is happening. It's that every apocalypse is happening. They're summoning an ancient evil, which also is an alien who is using the alignment of the planets to summon Planet X to destroy the Earth
for the end of Mystery Inc. But trust me when but the thing
ancient Mayan curse.
Yes. They go whole ham. The Twin Peaks Red Room episode we mentioned is basically just a lore dump episode with chase bits in between.
Yeah, it was basically made for us, where it's like, oh, we haven't seen the show in a while. Oh yeah, okay, here's all the lore.
Yeah, pretty much. It served as a nice little recap for us.
Which I completely forgot that Scooby's girlfriend dog, Nova, was a god.
See, now you see why when Nova first showed up in the show, I was like, oh, she shows up this early? You're like, okay, well, I guess the dog is important somehow. Yeah.
I knew she was important somehow because like I had vaguely read some spoilers or something.
Nova Ex Machina. But that's what I like is the tone. The tone is perfect throughout, where it's like until
the final 2 episodes where they play it completely straight. It's always got this element of not taking itself too seriously.
But honestly, by the last 2 episodes, they've kind of earned the playing it completely straight.
Yeah.
They
fucking shoot a child.
Yeah. It's like when Hot Dog Water gets firing squatted, that's when it's like, okay, all right. When Hot Dog Water gets firing squatted, and I'm not like, it doesn't it
doesn't feel tonally out of place.
It's like, okay, they slowly build up the more serious tone. I think that's the beauty of the show, is they slowly build up the more serious tone throughout, while never completely losing the goofy Scooby-Doo side.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the show, when they go full solve the apocalypse and fight Nibiru, it's like, okay.
Okay, but enough of that. The important thing is what does the ending have mean for the implications of the Scooby-Doo timeline.
Multiple timelines confirmed. Multiple timelines confirmed.
And you all thought I was a madman. You stood.
You've been saying there was multiple timelines forever.
I told you from on high there are multiple Scooby-Doo timelines, and you labeled me a false prophet. But where are you now? Anyway, yes. This takes place. This in the end of the show, after defeating Nibiru, they are transported into a timeline where where
the evil
Nibiru
entity never existed, and the
basically everything went right in their lives.
Yeah, a timeline where Crystal Cove is not the comedically cursed mystery.
They then get an invitation from Mysterington University.
That's basically what it was called. It was a little more clever than that, but like not much.
And then that is meant to be kind of perceived as the plot hook that leads into the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It kind of doesn't, because Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? They clearly established that their hometown that they used to live in is called Doosville.
It's
also, Shaggy's dad is a cop in that show, and he's definitely not a cop in this show.
It's loose enough that they could lead it into any other show they want, or just make a season 3 if they.
I honestly feel like it was more meant to tie into a next
follow-up
show in the same universe that they never made.
Yeah.
Because the characters still interact like they do as they would in the Mystery Inc. timeline, and Hot Dog Water is there, who is never a character before.
Yeah,
I love her addition, but it would be disingenuous to say Hot Dog Water was always there.
Yeah,
she wasn't.
And her and Velma are all but stated gay.
She literally says, "That's my girl." It's
at the end of the episode, when the timeline is reset and all the deaths are undone,
and everyone is in the good timeline.
In the good timeline. What a crazy bonkers ending! Like the third episode, so we'll just go. I'll do a little episode by episode of these.
So the fifth to
last episode is Red Room Twin Peaks lore dump.
Fourth,
and the fifth episode establishes they need to get the heart of the Jaguar.
Fourth episode, they go to get the heart of the Jaguar
from Mexico, and that's where the Velma's mom, Indiana Jones, like that was the most. That one struck an interesting balance of being episode of the week with
some tie into the original.
Where like the monster that was chasing them just ended up being the Latino Indiana Jones guy, and he was just trying to get Velma's mom to love him. But like, why was he attacking them then? They basically lampshaded and say like it doesn't.
They basically said he didn't think that far.
At that point in the show, the overarching plot is going so strong that that a mystery of the week unmasking is just like played for comedy.
Yeah.
And there's several episodes in later season 2 that do that, where they're like, they know people are watching
more for the mystery,
than for the weekly mystery at that point. So the weekly shenanigans they just get silly with, which I love.
Which I love. I always love it when they do not take themselves too seriously with the weekly shenanigans. That's why Pub Named Scooby-Doo is one of my favorites, because it's fucking bonkers.
And then the third to last episode, I love this. I love that they come back from Mexico. They leave for one weekend, and everyone in town has disappeared.
Yeah.
Because they've been dragged underground by Pericles' Nazi robot army and are being forced to
work in a mining camp.
In a mining camp. And then Sheriff Bronson leads a people's uprising while the Scooby Gang fight the evil Mystery Inc. This is where you get the images of Scooby and Shaggy in robot mech suits shooting machine guns. Freaking hilarious and amazing. And then the last 2 episodes do that third to last episode, it's all still a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Those last 2 episodes,
very
I think the choice to have Hot Dog Water at we were watching that second to last episode, and I was going, why don't they just not go fight Nibiru? Because the Scooby Gang has the artifacts.
The villain's whole plan revolves around them fighting Nibiru because they have all of the keys to unlock the doors.
The good guys do.
Yeah.
So it's why don't they just not go? And then the episode pretty much immediately answered it for us,
we'll kill Hot Dog Water.
The evil gang has a hostage.
Yeah.
And now they've opened the door, and so now they need to go and
once you open one door, it's not going to be long before the other doors follow.
Yeah. So it's this cool, and I feel like the whole hot dog water thing where she breaks free of their capture and then like tries to use she grabs Pericles and then uses him as a bargaining chip so the main gang can head in first, but then she loses control of the situation and gets executed. It's off screen, but it's about as dark as you can do. I mean,
in a show like
you
this.
see guns aimed at her, and then you hear gunshot sound effects, and Velma and Scooby both hear it and are like, we have to keep moving forward. And it's played completely straight. Yeah. And I'd argue from that point that the goofiness of it is dialed back for an appropriately epic finale where everybody actually gets cool badass moments to do stuff. Even Scooby and Shaggy, the comedic runaway guys, get cool fight moments. Yeah. And also, the design for Nibiru is good. I like the way his initial design where he's this weird massive tentacles that form into a face, and then when he fuses with Pericles, and he becomes like a Cthulhu squid Pericles looking creature.
Really cool.
Yeah, you can tell they by this point they were running on low budget, but also they make the most they use fairly minimalist designs, and they manage to it doesn't look cheap. The only thing that looks cheap is that rock monster they run away from for 5 seconds in the second to last episode.
The CGI has never looked good in this show.
My theory is they made that CGI rock monster for an episode they didn't end up making, and they were like, we already spent money on this, so we're going to include a scene of them running away from the CGI rock monster.
Ooh, also, Shaggy gets a gun.
I love this. They get to the last door, and Shaggy tries to shoot the door open, and that's just not how it works. Obviously, because those doors were made before the guns were.
Insert clip of Shaggy holding a gun throughout various iterations to shoot Scooby-Doo. Don't worry, I'll send them to you. But you know who didn't have a gun? None of these characters, because guns didn't exist yet.
Gun. What if you didn't have a gun? Oh. But anyway, Mystery Inc. What a cool show.
Really great.
It really did the apocalypse ending before Gravity Falls came around and did that. Gravity Falls is very similar. We should probably watch that next.
That can be our next the group.
I know I just spoiled there's apocalypse stuff in it, but also
the show that's based around solving creepy mysteries about cryptids that ends with an apocalypse.
Gravity Falls is actually a lot like Mystery Inc. More so than I realize now watching it. They both have this interesting balance of complex mysteries that don't talk down to the audience with complex mysteries taken seriously that don't talk down to the audience, mixed with goofy cartoon fun time humor alongside, and they mix those two things really well. And it's interesting that Mystery Inc. was doing a lot of that around the same time as Gravity Falls, but technically started it a little bit earlier. They were a little ahead of the curve on it, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, if you liked that show, which it seems like you did, and if you like Gravity Falls, you should watch Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. And if you like Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc., you should also watch Gravity Falls. I feel like they
next on the docket for me is I'm probably going to finish off some of the more recent Scooby-Doo movies. Then I'm going to move on to Be Cool Scooby-Doo.
Yay, you can finish...
Scooby-Doo Brickleberry. I can't wait.
You can finish your Scooby-Doo watching with things that are all worse than...
All objectively worse.
Alright. I think we should talk about our main slate first, and if people want to stay till the end to watch us talk about the Incredible Hulk...
Do it. Then.
Yeah.
Eragon.
I
keep calling it Eragon.
Who cares?
Beowulf from 2007, the motion capture CGI one.
In a kingdom ravaged by darkness, and then Black Death.
Then Black Death.
So we're gonna go. That was the order we watched them in. That's how we're gonna go.
Journey into Hell.
Let's go. It's Eragon time. Let's go.
Yep, it's Eragon time.
Yep, it's Eragon in time. In a kingdom ravaged by darkness and tyranny, one small ray of hope emerges when a mysterious blue stone turns out to be the last dragon's egg in existence. Packed with non-stop action, spectacular special effects, and an inspiring story about believing yourself, Eragon will fire up your imagination. This movie is very boring, and we will be exercising it.
Oh, without question. It's based on a book written by a teenager about dragon riders, and it's someone threw Lord of the Rings, Dragon Riders of Pern, and Earthsea into a blender with Star Wars.
Coming soon on Blu-ray, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Oh my God.
X-Men: The Last Stand.
Anyway, they threw Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Extraordinary Gentlemen, fucking Dragon Riders of Pern, and Earthsea into a blender, and poured the mold, the generic mold that came out into the shape of a book.
The movie,
and that book was Eragon.
The movie,
and then they turned that book into
a bad YA fantasy movie.
Yes.
The movie opens with boring ass opening narration.
Told in a boring way by a good actor.
Jeremy Irons. He's trying his best.
But he's, like, you can clearly tell that, like, they told him, no, you need to be drier because this is very important exposition. Put no emotion.
Very important exposition that his character will give again
times.
later in the movie. This is one of my least favorite, like,
you have out of
bad movies do.
It's such a bad telling thing of not having faith in the audience's ability to pay attention.
When you
have out of universe exposition to inform the audience how the world works, like in a way that's inorganic to the story, but catches us up to speed, so they don't have to spend a bunch of time explaining it in universe. And then you have them explain it in universe to a character who should really know this information based on everything we know about this universe.
It's time to stop doing this, movies. It just encourages the audience to not pay attention to any of the exposition.
It's just, ugh. Yeah. So there are these dragon riders, and they were the good guy. They were Jedis.
Yeah, and then they got taken out by the evil Sith Empire, run by King John Malkovich.
No, Galbatorix.
Right, Galbatorix. The names are stupid.
John Malkovich giving his best Kevin Costner on the set of Waterworld.
He's just like walking around bored in his scene.
He's so bored.
I almost said Kevin Costner. John Malkovich King and his henchman, the guy who plays Rumpelstiltskin in Once Upon a Time, playing Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time, but with nothing interesting about him. With all the interesting character traits stripped away.
He does a good job. Too bad the character he's presenting is literally the most one-dimensional...
generic villain sorcerer that works for an evil king.
It's Grimmel Wormtongue. If Grimmel Wormtongue was supposed to be, like, the main villain of Lord of the Rings...
Yeah, that's the worst part, is that he's the villain of this movie, and the John Malkovich King is just, like, set up for sequels that we never got.
Yeah.
Another great bad movie sin of using the jobber villain as the main villain for your movie because you want to make more movies later.
But then, like... But all that does is just make the main villain seem boring.
So...
Because he's sending his most boring henchmen to do boring tasks for him.
So after the opening exposition, there's a princess and she has a giant blue pill.
She gives Eragon the blue pill
through like magic teleportation shit. And so Eragon,
and then he becomes a soy boy.
My favorite, the most pointless thing in the movie. So Eragon, he looks like Luke Skywalker. He has the Luke Skywalker hair. He lives with his uncle and a farm, just like Luke Skywalker.
I think they even have...
They do the shot of him, like, sitting in front of the setting sun and looking into it, like, from behind. Literally, the exact Star Wars shot. Yeah. The only difference here is that for some reason he has a cousin who looks just like him. Like, we could not tell the actors
I was convinced that his uncle had an affair, was not his blood uncle, and had an affair with Eragon's mom, and that's why they looked identical.
They casted 2 blonde-haired, blue-eyed actors who looked eerily similar.
I have to assume they looked that way and had his brother go off in a vague direction because he was meant to come back in a dramatic reveal in the books.
Yeah, okay, this cousin brother is in one scene and then bails, and then that's not ever important ever again, so why did they introduce him?
No.
You know what they actually probably did is the actor who played that cousin was probably like
his stunt double.
Either his stunt double or like their second choice for casting the main character, and they just used him in that part. Because they looked like the same person.
Same color hair, same haircut, same like curly hair.
Yes.
They dress similarly.
I literally did a double take when they both appeared on screen for the first time. Like, huh? Why are there 2 of them? What's going on?
And arguably, the brother was the better. Not the brother. If I called them brothers, the cousin was a better actor. So use that guy.
So that guy leaves. Then the dragon baby blue pill egg hatches, and
he's like, what is this?
And then he goes into town and meets Jeremy Irons' character, who is the Obi-Wan of this movie.
He doesn't do a good job.
He's one of the best characters in this movie.
He's not given anything.
Yeah.
But he does a good job.
He gives the nothing he's given. Like, honestly, he's just as engaged with the nothing material as, like, Ewan McGregor is in the prequels. Like, he's a similar standout.
He actually makes the character feel like a character, as opposed to the 2D cutout he was clearly written to be.
So he ends up being Eragon's mentor, and Eragon has a special bond with the dragon, and they talk to each other with telepathy, and the dragon talks too much.
So the dragon talks so fucking much
through telepathy with the main character.
The problem isn't that they have the dragon talk at all. The problem is that the dragon never fucking shuts up, because the dragon's design is not animated well enough to convey emotion without the use of telepathy. And
Eragon and the dragon have this absolutely stupid argument where basically the evil bad guys are coming to kill Eragon, and they're going to his family's house. So Eragon's like, I gotta get home and save my uncle, or he's gonna get Luke Skywalker uncle.
Even though he's gonna get Luke Skywalker uncled anyway.
And then the dragon tries to rescue Eragon from running into certain death, and they have this awful scene. This is the first time he's flying with the dragon.
And remember, this is all taking place telepathically. They're not speaking to each other.
Where he's arguing with the dragon while it's flying him around, like, put me down, I need to rescue my family. And then, of course, he gets put down and goes and finds his uncle dead. And then Obi-Wan shows up.
Yeah.
Jeremy Irons Obi-Wan shows up and is like, we need to leave. It was something with an or at the end. I don't remember. And he's like, no, I don't want to be a dragon rider anymore. I don't want to be a dragon rider anymore.
The last scene these two were in, Eragon had broken into Jeremy Irons' house
to ask him to train him. And
as a dragon rider.
And now his uncle dying sets up this dumb conflict for the first, the second act of the movie where Eragon just won't ride his dragon. They're literally riding horses across the country to go to the resistance base, and the dragon is just flying separately from them and then lands whenever they make camp. It's so stupid, and it slows the movie down so much for no reason. For absolutely no reason. It's insufferable. Braum, right. And it makes Eragon look like an asshole, and makes Braum look like he's like, you little shit.
It makes his jadedness seem justified because Eragon's such a fucking tool.
Yeah.
So then they're on the road, and then Eragon sees a bunch of the evil bad guy army raiding a bunch of villagers, and he's like, I can stop them. I have skills. And then Braum is like, show me. And then they have a montage of them training together.
They never rescue those people, do they?
No.
Yeah.
So it's such a funnily dark transition of Those characters are dead.
They did not think through writing that one.
Those characters are getting murdered. Meanwhile, Braum and Eragon are out here like laughing, sword fighting. Braum like trips him and is like, "That is why you fail," or whatever. God. And then there's a scene later where like he teaches him magic, but it turns out Eragon is way better at using magic than sword fighting. So don't.
But also, he barely uses the magic. He uses the fire magic like twice, and the weird see through the dragon eyes video game vision magic like
much
3 or 4 times, and it rarely does that much to help him.
No,
learn better spells, dude.
Dragon, all you're doing is seeing with the dragon eyes, but usually the dragon eyes can only barely see better than human eyes.
So then he goes and
he was using the dragon magic like when his fucking dragon was dying.
Yeah.
Why? Heal her! You know a healing spell! Fucking hell.
So then he goes and rescues the princess on a diversion. Was she actually a princess? I don't give a shit, basically.
Apparently she was an elf princess.
Okay.
You couldn't tell because she doesn't...
He goes and rescues the elf princess who was captured by Rumpelstiltskin at the beginning of the movie, and then of course immediately not only does he take an L, not only does he take a massive L when rescuing her. I mean, he does rescue her.
But he got tricked into rescuing her.
By Rumpelstiltskin. And he takes such a big L that Braum fucking dies.
Braum has to sacrifice himself.
To save this dude. And so then Jeremy Irons doesn't get to be in the movie anymore, and now you're more bored than ever.
Yeah. It's such a shame because Jeremy Irons was doing such a great job with this jaded... the material wasn't there, but he was doing such a great job portraying this jaded former dragon rider who doesn't want to see Eragon go through the same mistakes he did. But then, he never has an actual character redemption moment. He just sacrifices himself for Eragon.
And the main character never really learns how to, he doesn't learn anything from Braum that really justifies the sacrifice. It's just like they needed to hit all the fucking plot beats. And it doesn't matter. It's a movie.
It's a
movie.
It's an L.
And then they go into the big final battle. They meet up with the resistance group. This movie actually has...
We completely forgot to talk about Sasuke.
Oh god. Well, because he doesn't matter until they meet up with the resistance group. There's this edgy dude with a hood that's following them around for half the movie, and then and then right after Braum dies, they're like, we need a new friend. So this guy shows up and is like, hey guys, I don't know what his name was,
Sasuke.
He's Sasuke.
Except he's not Sasuke because despite looking super edgy, he's just really friendly and wants to help the good guys.
And then they get to the resistance camp and it's like, oh, Sasuke's dad was an evil dude, so the resistance group doesn't trust him, but this is an absolutely pointless plot point.
Literally,
as soon as the battle breaks out, Sasuke will break out of his cage and go to the fight anyway.
To help the good guys. You could have just had him be part of the battle to begin with.
There's zero reason for his character to exist at all, other than that he's maybe a fan favorite character from the book.
Yeah. There is no... you could have just had the elf lady, who they went to the trouble of rescuing,
and they go to the trouble of, almost setting up a romantic connection between her and Eragon, but it's, not... But, also not really.
I can't tell if it was failed to be set up because... it was just...
No actor chemistry, or
bad writing.
Or
they wanted to have it be a slow burn.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's who cares? And then Eragon fights Rumpelstiltskin, and Rumpelstiltskin has an admittedly cool design, shadow dragon.
It's a lot like the Shang-Chi dragon.
It is a lot like the Shang-Chi ending, but you don't care about anything that is happening. And then the dragon almost dies, and then the main character saves his dragon. The main character dumb, and then Eragon, more like L-RAGON. All right, next movie. I'm gonna keep doing this. I don't care how long.
So Beowulf.
Beowulf.
You know Beowulf. There we go.
Okay, Beowulf.
No, I'm joking.
The classic literary story that I didn't read in high school, but most people did. So I went in not knowing any Beowulf lore.
I vaguely remember reading it.
So this is a 2007
Robert Zemeckis, image mover, aka
Polar Express
team.
Yeah. At their most, we're trying to make this movie look like it's live action.
Yeah.
You can look at the box art and it almost looks like...
Yeah, you can almost see Kurt Russell in that. And then you turn it on the back and that's just Angelina Jolie.
Oh yeah, the evil serpent is, the evil monster is Angelina Jolie, but the serpent, there's a plot reason for it, but it's still silly.
So, Beowulf.
So the first, 20 minutes of this movie are, oh god, this is ugly, I hate this, I don't want to watch this anymore.
It's a bunch of people standing around and singing.
Why are there so many, like the king's, half naked, and I don't want to see a half naked dude in this art style.
Boobs.
It's just so, it's so unpleasant in the opening that I was like,
and then,
this is going to be a long movie.
And it's not like the story at that point was doing anything to elevate it.
Yeah, it was just the Beowulf old story.
It was they're throwing a party and then a monster attacks, so they ask Beowulf.
And the monster attacks in the most strobe light seizure inducing manner.
It fucking
and it's just so unpleasant to watch.
It's so hard to watch. If either of us had epilepsy problems, I don't think we could watch this movie.
Yeah. If I had epilepsy, I was already on thin ice at that point in the movie. If I had any slight history of seizures, the second that scene started, I would have been turn the movie off. We're watching something else.
Definitely.
This is not worth it. But then the movie actually gets... The first act is boring.
After Beowulf kills Grendel, the movie takes an interesting turn because we start to see more of Grendel's mother. And then Beowulf goes to Grendel's mother's cave to avenge the death of his men, who Grendel's mother killed in the night. And she's played by Angelina Jolie, and they actually do something very interesting where they imply that Grendel's mother had sex with Hrothgar, the king, and that's and that Grendel is his heir, and that's why she's been sending him out every night to kill people, and why he won't fight Hrothgar.
Yeah. And so then she seduces Beowulf, and so that brings us
with the promises of making him a king.
So that brings us to the actually good, interesting third arc where old King Beowulf has to...
Well, first there's a really interesting bit where Beowulf comes back and basically no one believes he actually killed Grendel's mother.
Yeah.
But they are willing to believe that whatever Beowulf did, it satisfied Grendel's mother enough that she's not going to come and kill everyone. But then Hrothgar takes Beowulf aside and he's like, "So, you stuck your sword in Big Grendel's mother, eh? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge."
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And he gives him his crown and then explains, basically says, Grendel was my son.
And you are now, this is no longer my problem, now it's yours.
And
then he gives Beowulf the kingdom and commits suicide.
Yeah. Which is really kind of interesting because it adds an element to the story when he gets older, which we'll talk about now.
The third act, where old King Beowulf reckon with.
Yeah, so old King Beowulf, he's now kind of inherited all of the problems that Hrothgar had. His marriage has left him unsatisfied. He's having an affair, and now a new monster is ravaging his kingdom, a dragon.
And he has to take out the dragon.
Yeah.
And the dragon.
But first he goes to Grendel's mother's cave, where it's revealed to him the dragon is his son. And it adds an element to the story of the sins of the father.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. That
sins of the father. The phrase "sins of the father" is basically said by what was John Malkovich's character? Yes, this movie also has John Malkovich.
He started out as a hater of Beowulf, and then he became a sycophant.
I like that in the first two acts when when Beowulf is young and this character is also young, I'm looking at him like, is that supposed to look like John Malkovich?
And then when he gets
animated,
older,
and then he gets old, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's clearly John Malkovich.
Yeah, Hrothgar's modeled after Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the character literally says, sins of the father, because the dragon comes to the town and says basically says he's Beowulf's son.
Yeah, and the curse of the, like, drinking horn thing that's attached to it.
The drinking horn, as long as it stayed in the cave, would keep them safe. But then they took it, and so Grendel's mother unleashed the dragon on them.
Very interesting movie. I also like the ending where Beowulf's friend is, like, being tempted by Grendel's mother,
and it's left ambiguous if he actually succumbs to the temptation, or if in his wizened age he knows to avoid such a siren call.
So an interestingly, like, mixed bag movie overall.
The first half is really weak, but the second half is very strong.
And improves upon the source material.
Yeah, I would say it improves upon the source material.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Beowulf always had this element of the fallen hero, but originally it was just that Beowulf got old and was no longer like fit to rule, and he was ruling past his age, and that's what the dragon was meant to represent. But now it represents all of that still, but it also represents, like, his own failures as a king, his ambitions as a young man, his lust for power, his lust in general, and his failures as a king, and that is interesting.
It's also occasionally a rather funny movie. I like how Beowulf defeats Grendel naked.
Yeah, it feels. I don't know if it was intended to be comedic, but it definitely feels like an Austin Powers sketch.
The art style, you get used to it after like 20 minutes, but man, is it...
The monster designs are pretty good.
The monster designs work because it's capitalizing on the natural unnervingness.
Yeah. The characters can be a bit uncanny sometimes.
Yeah.
There's one really funny scene where John Malkovich kicks his slave boy, for no reason.
They keep having him do that. Like, it's like, why is this in the movie?
But it's so funny that it's like, okay,
it's so, like, weirdly comedic in that they rush through it so quickly. It's
you don't even have time to
it's not relevant to the plot at all, so you're just kind of like not, you're like, okay, alright, alright, all you can do is awkwardly laugh. It's a strange movie.
Yeah.
A strange movie based on a strange story.
Beowulf's pretty weird, man.
Yeah.
It's weird that that's one of the oldest surviving English poems.
Yeah. But I mean, if you like the story of Beowulf, if you like these kinds of, like, dark fantasy, this is the dark fantasy episode. I mean, Eragon, fuck Eragon.
Eragon wasn't really dark.
Like this and Black Death were.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Black Death is a very interesting one that I feel like we're probably going to talk about for a while.
So Black Death.
Black Death.
It's arguably not really even a fantasy movie. It takes place during sort of a kind of out displaced from history Black Death sort of thing.
Yeah, do they give specific years?
They say the 1300s, but they don't, like, specify any deeper than that.
The year is 1348.
Never mind. Never mind. Well, even though they specify a year, they don't really specify, like, a region, I don't think.
Yeah.
And the characters kind of behave like they kind of exist outside of time, sort of.
Yeah, there's not a huge attempt to, like, have them speak in a medieval fashion all that much or anything like that.
So the plot for this one is that the Black Death is ravaging the countryside, and there's this one village that has completely avoided the plague, and the church, and specifically Sean Bean character,
who's really not the main character, despite what the front of the box will tell you. Eddie Redmayne's priest character is much more the main character.
Osmond.
Yeah.
He, who is like a kind of like a Knights Templar, suspects that a necromancer is involved and that they're raising the dead. So he gathers up his men, and also Osmond the priest, who has been actually he's on hot water with the priesthood because he's been having an affair. Yeah,
he's got and
that's part of the reason why.
That's part of the reason why he signs up for the mission is to meet up with his lover.
Yeah, they go on a trip to find this village and the alleged necromancer, losing some along the way, some to battle, some to plague. And when they get there, it's really interesting because like there's immediate.
I don't want to spoil it too much just yet, but one thing I love about this movie is every scene feels like it has some kind of purpose.
Yeah.
There are no pointless scenes. Like, all the stuff that happens before they reach the town feels meaningful.
Yeah.
Like the scene where they run into the woman being burned for witchhood, and Sean Bean's character
ends up rescuing her only to then immediately kill her.
Yeah, it has an interesting saying something about, like, basically he's trying to spare her a fiery death.
And it kind of gives this idea of like it's not about what's true, it's about what's thought of as true.
Yes, that scene establishes that element, and then there's a scene where one of the people they're with dies from plague, and that establishes the stakes of that.
Like the plague is real and it could kill them at any moment.
And every member of their little D&D party that they're with, because it's basically...
They all have their own unique backstory.
They really do have their own unique backstories.
And as a result of that, their own unique worldview.
And ways of dealing with things that
the doctor of the group, he seems not loyal necessarily to the cause or even the church, but to his friends.
Yeah.
And he has the most emotional reaction whenever one of them has to die.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the only flaw with this movie is that there's some pretty bad shaky cam.
Yeah, especially
during some action scenes. There's one action scene midway through the movie that is like
really jarring, not in a way that feels like it was meant to be intentional, but it just does not work. It feels like motion sickness.
There are scenes where they use the shaky cam in a limited way. And it does heighten intensity, which I think is what
it gives it like a grounded feel.
Which definitely works. Intensity, but there's a lot of scenes where it's just way too much and like doesn't. That's just a really hard thing to balance, right? Shaky cam is a really hard to get right. And it needs to be used sparingly. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of used a lot throughout the movie.
Mostly for good, mostly okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes very good, and then sometimes very bad.
But I love it is a fantasy movie, but it is all in on, it is dark fantasy to the point where it's like a horror thriller kind of fantasy.
This is kind of like, I guess, when spoilers are around.
The territory. Supernatural element of the necromancer is also so interesting in a movie that is so grounded.
Because once they arrive at the village, for most of that section, it is hard to tell if it's actually supernatural or if it's just them,
and even before,
or if it's just a creepy cult trying to manipulate people.
And even before they get to the town, it's like everything about the movie is so grounded.
Yeah.
And then they'll occasionally mention a necromancer, and it's interesting, like, they tease it well. The, like, possibility of the supernatural.
They also, there's this running motif of this journey being equated to going through hell. Mm-hmm. And that is also kind of how the village is sort of treated.
Yeah, once you hit the village, you're starting to try to predict, okay, where is this going? Is the village hell? What's going on? Like, you start theorizing stuff. But what I loved about it is that nothing I theorized was really how they played it out in the end.
They went with something very different.
I read, according to the Wikipedia article, there was another ending they had in mind that was much more similar to what I predicted.
Right. The original ending was, I think, supposed to be that the necromancer was supernatural.
Yeah.
And that the village, like, literally was, like, either hell or, like, a portal to hell or something.
Yeah, at this point, we're obviously going into spoiler territory, but it's fair to say the last act of this movie is really interesting. Because
fun.
The necromancer woman, she lures in the priest, Osmond, by...
Using the death of his lover. To make him question God.
And make him believe that this necromancy might be real. And then, basically, while she's luring him to the forest, the rest of the group gets captured by the townspeople, or they get drugged and then captured by the townspeople, and it's like, these townspeople are essentially, like radical non-believers who try to force the Christian outsiders to repent because from their view the Christians are the ones who will bring the plague and are bringing the plague, and they've been manipulated by this necromancer woman.
Oh, okay, that really is interesting. So the director also worked on this other film, Triangle, and that has a similar sort of quasi-fantastical element to it, of this haunted ship that like seems to be on stuck in a time loop.
Oh, interesting.
And he describes He describes the change that he made to the script as, to him, hell is the hell you are in with yourself. And I think that's really representative of both this movie and Triangle.
Because in this movie, every character is going through their own internal turmoil, and at the end, it is not like the main character, the priest Osmond. He
doesn't have a triumphant moment where like his faith is reassured. If anything, he's left questioning more than ever.
In the end, he is defeated less so by the necromancer,
but by
himself.
Because the necromancer reveals that nothing was.
That's such a great twist. He's running around in the forest trying to find her, and she reveals to him that. So basically, when they're in the village, she tries to bait him into joining her to get a man of the
by resurrecting his girlfriend.
By resurrecting his girlfriend. So he goes into a shack. His girlfriend is like puking and dying.
She's like kind of not all there.
Yeah, she seems like she's been revived. And honestly, she seems like she's been revived from the dead and is like a walking zombie. And
or like she's living, but she's not really has any brain function.
And he, upon seeing this, stabs her and kills her, and then he brings her body out and is like, "I will not submit."
And then the necromancer calls him a heretic.
And it seems like this triumphant moment.
But then the necromancer reveals
she reveals after the clergymen have managed to
taken back
Sean
out the city.
Yeah, they take out the city. Sean Bean reveals he has the plague, and everybody in the town gets it.
Yeah,
and ends up being killed. So it's like it seems like this triumphant moment, and then the necromancer reveals she was never really a necromancer to begin with, and she never killed his girlfriend to begin with. She just drugged her and like staged it all, which means that that Osmond, the clergyman, he killed his girlfriend.
Yeah,
he committed the grave sin of murder, and so then that sets him on this this dark path,
complete crisis of faith.
Yeah,
where like he can't really believe in anything anymore. So aside from his hatred.
Yeah, so he becomes one of those awful church leaders who just goes around executing anyone he thinks might be a witch, and they display that brilliantly too, because he captures somebody who
I think, I don't know if that was actually the actress or like
it was. He captures somebody and it's like, oh, that is the necromancer though.
But then she's like, I've never met you before. I don't know who you are.
And then at the very end, they show him capture another person and they do this great shot where she looks like the necromancer to him.
But then we see her,
and it's not. He's seeing everyone that he hates as this necromancer woman. So in the end, like, she didn't do anything supernatural. She just manipulated the town and manipulated him.
And it's all a matter of perspective. Like, what is hell? What is faith? And it's like, for the necromancer, faith is just whatever you can make people believe.
And every character has a different reaction also when they're in the town being forced to like repent or die.
Yeah.
One of them says he will never repent and dies. One of them repents and then gets hanged in the forest anyway. Sean Bean is
like ironclad, and so they try to break him.
And he doesn't break and reveals he has the plague, and that's how they get the upper hand.
And then two of them keep silent until Sean Bean is getting tortured.
And then they manage to break out and gain the upper hand.
Because that's just, the whole people's faith was the plague is in here, so the necromancer must be doing something.
But within that scene, every single person in their group gets time to one of them survives.
Yeah.
Was he the one who loved his friends?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one who was there for his friends is the only one to survive outside of the
He outlives
which
his
is
friends,
a tragedy.
and he is not necessarily made better for the experience, but he is able to keep his faith because his faith was always in the people he cared about.
Yeah. even the guy who runs the town is given like a sort of
even he is like, I believed in her. I believed in her no matter what.
There's a great interaction between him and the guy who loves his friends right before.
It's basically they basically have the same motivations from opposite perspectives.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting is the leader of the town. His lack of faith is as strong as their faith.
Yeah,
and it's just like an interesting.
Their zealotry is as intense as his lack of zealotry. Yeah.
Honestly, it's one of those movies that just gets better and better the more. Like it was already like the conflict scene in the town is already great, and then they throw that ending twist in of the necromancer not being a necromancer at all, and it's like really
it makes you rethink the whole thing.
Yeah. Definitely a hidden fantasy classic
really good.
That we just explained the entire plot of, so if you're still here.
But
you've now heard the whole.
You know what came out at roughly the same time that isn't an instant classic. The Incredible Hulk.
I want to talk. We're gonna go on an Incredible Hulk tangent. I'm gonna stop this.
This is no longer a Fear podcast. This is the Coleman and Kirk talk about Incredible Hulk.
We're gonna talk about some other things now that we've done talking about these movies, and then we'll do the Exorcism.
Yes.
We're both standing up because I need to recharge the camera battery. All right.
Hulk smash!
We have now spoken about 3 Fear movies. Hello, YouTube. We're going to talk about Incredible Hulk now, because it's a strange...
That's right. We're on that algorithm, baby.
It's weirdly, yes. For the first time, probably since it came out, Incredible Hulk is relevant to the MCU algorithm.
Hulk wasn't even relevant when it came.
Yeah. If anything, it's most relevant now, because weirdly, She-Hulk is making Hulk lore relevant.
So Abomination came back in She-Hulk.
And the scientist dude that's in Incredible Hulk that we were joking about coming back is also coming back in the next Captain America or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why these characters
also
keep coming
General
back. Also,
Ross came back.
Yeah.
Like years ago in Civil War.
But I don't want to talk too much about MCU.
The Incredible Hulk.
I just think the Incredible Hulk is such a weird movie.
It's an orphan of history. It was one of the first, if you count it as the MCU, which you don't because it isn't the MCU. It's not the MCU. There's Iron Man, and then Hulk was supposed to be the next step in that MCU, but Hulk was so bad that they retconned that. Then
it got monkey roped into the actual MCU.
Yeah, it got roped into the MCU in the sense that technically that Hulk is supposed to be this Hulk, except they completely change his face. They completely change everything about his back.
In the Incredible Hulk. It's just such a so when I first got into the MCU, I watched Iron Man. I was trying to catch up before Avengers. And I'm like, this is the first Avengers. And I'm like, okay, let's watch Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Hulk, right? Little did I know there were 2 of Hulks.
There's
two very different Hulks.
There's 2003's The Hulk by Ang Lee, which, funny enough, seems like it was meant to tie into this movie in an earlier draft.
So I watched 2003 Ang Lee Hulk when I was preparing for Avengers. I never felt the need to correct my mistake.
No.
And it's not that now I do, but it's more that Incredible Hulk, like Abomination showing up in She-Hulk, Incredible Hulk lore was starting to become relevant.
Sorry.
And I just think the movie is fascinating because it's such a strange... It starts out with the tone of like bad mid-2000s superhero movie. Like Daredevil or Ghost Rider,
extremely mid-2000s Daredevil, Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Anything that wasn't the X-Men movies, and arguably even
some of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
It takes itself way too seriously. Has all this dramatic music.
The lighting is super fucking dark. Which kind of works with the Hulk scenes because they designed this Hulk to be very physically imposing, kind of like a horror character.
But then as the movie goes on, it becomes a little more MCU-like. Like the scientist...
to the point where the third act is
CGI MCU battle, but lit like a Snyder movie. Like, Incredible Hulk has every version of cape shit within it.
Yes.
The bad 2000s, the 2000s mediocre superhero movie, the MCU because there's some weird quips and joke scenes.
The second half turns into an MCU movie.
The jokes and clips will show up and you'll be like, huh, well that's an MCU moment. And then
the lighting it gets brighter and brighter.
It gets a little more comedic. Then they introduce the scientist character.
That's like
that guy is straight up MCU.
He isn't an MCU character, but he could easily work in the MCU.
And apparently he is going to, because they're gonna bring him back, I guess.
Yeah, like, because he's written to be like a play on the mad scientist archetype.
Yeah.
But you could easily just rewrite him
to be who wears t-shirts,
to be the quirky nerd character.
Yeah. So it's this weird, like, amalgamation of, like, the weird self-seriousness and, like, dark and, like, bland color palette of a Snyder film with the mediocrity of a 2000s Morbius-type superhero film.
Well, yeah, Morbius is a good comparison, because Morbius is desperately trying to be a early 2000s superhero movie.
And it also is in the MCU. Like, it's in the MCU, but it has all this weird DNA from all these other weird superhero movies. Like, it has DNA from the 2003 Hulk.
Yeah.
They rushed through his transformation into the Hulk
because it was
in an intro
because it
was in that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
that part of the movie from the Hulk 2003 is supposed to be canon to this movie.
If I had just watched The Incredible Hulk when I was trying to prepare for the MCU and not watched the 2003 Hulk, I would have been less prepared, I think. Because I would have been watching that movie and been like, wait, how did he turn into the Hulk?
They don't start his arc in
It feels like they started the
Hulk.
second act.
And they don't even start his end, and they don't even end his arc in The Incredible Hulk. The entirety of The Incredible Hulk is just this middle portion of The Incredible Hulk's arc. Where he is on the run from the military and trying to do something about his curse.
It's so strange.
And
I'd like to be clear, it's not a good movie.
No.
This is not a recommendation. But my curiosity was sated.
It is fascinating in a car crash style.
Yes, I came into thinking, like, this is fascinating. This forgotten MCU movie that nobody cares about, where the lead was played by somebody different than the person playing the character now, and it has completely different tone.
A talented actor, completely out of his depth.
Oh yeah, Edward Norton has no idea how to play this in the way that you would play a cape shit superhero movie. He's playing it way too serious, and so his depressed, traumatized character, the performance he's giving would work in a drama.
But it's not a drama.
Because it's the Hulk, it's just like weird.
He just comes off as weird and like
moody and like bored.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strange movie. It's not even its existence in the MCU is weird, and it's this weird middle bridge between what superhero movies were and what superhero movies would become in the future after it.
You can see.
And if that sounds interesting to you, it's worth watching for that reason.
Yeah.
But not.
Don't go into this movie thinking you're going to have a fun time.
Don't think that it's some MCU hidden gem. There's definitely a reason that it has not been relevant to the MCU until now. All of a sudden, thanks She-Hulk. Thanks She-Hulk.
Okay, wait.
To my review of that one.
Okay.
Puts in clip of She-Hulk twerking with Megan Thee
Stallion.
Yada.
Okay. There's a scene, the scientist character. There is a scene where, like, after he cures the Hulk and then creates the Abomination, like, he gets hit into a wall and then Hulk blood gets into his head. Is he gonna become like the and his codename was Mr. Blue. Is he gonna become like the fucking Blue Hulk? He's gonna have a massive swollen brain instead of being super strong?
Okay, the brain thing is actually dead on. I stumbled upon this like days after we watched the movie. We saw that scene and we were like, well, that's a plot thread they never used. Then I read Tim Blake Nelson, and there's a picture of the actor, has been cast as the leader for Captain America 4. And then I'm like, okay, who's the leader? It literally is a Hulk, but brain instead of brawn. He's not blue, so I don't know why. I don't know.
They should turn him blue because of Mr. Blue. That would be funny. No, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't.
But I would enjoy the reference.
There are theories he'll show up in She-Hulk, and it's honestly not that improbable at this point.
He's probably leading the villains.
Like, yeah, there's these vague villains in that show as of where it is right now.
The Wrecking Crew or something.
That are like, that clearly have a boss they're working for. I mean,
it's hard to say if that's even the plot they're actually going with.
She-Hulk is a weird show. I'll talk about that in my own video at some point.
The She-Hulk video.
The She-Hulk video. Whether I finish the show or not at this point is up to question, but I will make a video. The last episode I watched was actually not that bad, so I probably will end up finishing it, but it's Marvel is strange right now.
Marvel's in a weird position.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would call it a good position.
I don't think it is.
Everything they've been...
They're kind of in a, well, that just happened position. He's right behind me, isn't he? It's right behind me, isn't he?
It's right behind me, isn't he?
It's right behind me, isn't it?
L.
Let's exercise Eragon now.
Time.
Get over here.
Eragon, you vile heretic, you conjurer of sin, you purveyor of necromancy, you took...
It's a lot of power to give Eragon. It was kind of just boring.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. Fear.